Welcome to the South Miami-Dade Cultural Arts Center's first dance talk of the 21-22 season in support of Dimensions Dance Theater of Miami for their upcoming performance. I'm Annie Hoffman, and I'm the Education and Outreach Manager here at the South Miami-Dade Cultural Arts Center. This opportunity is brought to you with support of the Miami-Dade County Department of Cultural Affairs, the Board of County Commissioners, and the Office of the Mayor. Our program this evening will be recorded and made available with captions on our website at smdcac.org. Our panelists will be providing visual descriptions as they introduce themselves for those who are blind or have low vision. My visual description is I have pale white skin, shoulder length straight blonde hair, I'm wearing glasses, a patterned black and white top, and I have a virtual background of the South Miami-Dade Cultural Arts Center behind me. If you are watching this live tonight and you have any questions for our panel, please write them into the comments so that our panelists may answer them for you. I would now like to introduce our moderator, journalist Jordan Levin, who will introduce our distinguished panelists. Jordan?
Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. So my name is Jordan Levin. I'm a longtime Miami arts writer and cultural observer. And I'm here with an incredible group of dance and other artists. Carlos Guerra and Jennifer Cronenberg, the founders and directors of Dimensions Dance Theater, whose all-world premiere program we're going to be talking about tonight. Choreographers Kevin Jenkins, Ariel Rose, and Donna Murray. And artist Eduardo De Val Carrier. I'm very excited to have him here. I believe this is his first major dance project. And we also have costume designer Andrea Spiritinakos, and I will say more about her later. A quick visual description of me. I'm a middle-aged white woman with chin-length gray-brown hair. I'm wearing red glasses, a pale peach shirt, and behind me are books, CDs, and pictures. So I'm going to start with the reasons this program, the double reasons why this program, which takes place November 13th in the theater, yay, live theater inside at the South Miami-Dade Cultural Arts Center, is so exciting. It is all premieres, all brand new pieces commissioned by Dimensions Dance Theater. And given that this is still a young company, that they've been able to reach this point so quickly and reach one of their most central missions, which is to stage and encourage the creation of new work in Miami. It's really a fantastic program. And the other reason it's really exciting is that after everything we've been through with the pandemic and no performances, and then performances outside with many restrictions, and two of these projects were commissioned a long time ago, and they've been delayed by a year or even two, I think, by the pandemic. We're finally back in the theater, and these pieces are finally getting their moment on stage. So I wanted to ask each of you, well, Jennifer and Carlos and the choreographers, what it's like to finally get this on stage. And Jennifer and Carlos, I'm going to start with you.
Thanks, Jordan. Before we start, I'm going to describe myself. I have pale white skin, dark brown hair that's slicked back into a bun. I'm wearing a V-neck burgundy blouse, and I'm sitting in front of an ivory background with nothing hanging behind me. Do you want to describe yourself?
Hi, my name is Carlos Guerra, and I am a middle white skin with a short hair, and I'm sitting right in front of a ivory curtain. I'm wearing a blue shirt.
So tell me what it means to you to finally get this program and these three premieres, two of which are major projects, on stage.
You know, they are major projects, and so there is some anxiety that's involved with that, but in general, it's a huge sigh of relief to finally get these works on the stage. I feel like they've been so long in the making at this point that we just want to get them out there. We just want to do it, so knowing that that's actually coming into fruition after being canceled and postponed so many times is it's very relieving.
And finally, I mean, we've been waiting so long for this opportunity to present this ballet to our communities, and also to be able to collaborate with these great artists. So we are very excited about this.
Choreographer Kevin, I'd like to start with you in terms of choreographers. Where are you based, Kevin?
I'm based in San Diego at the moment.
Okay. So tell me, I believe this project started in 2017, yes?
Yes, the project started in 2017, and for me personally, I have tan skin, I have black hair, I am wearing a purple shirt, and I'm sitting in front of a blank wall. And this project started when Carlos was driving me to the airport after we had finished the last ballet I choreographed for Dimension, and he said, "This was so fun. If you ever came back, what would you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I've been sitting on this piece of music for a long time, and it's got this Latin feel, but it's orchestral, and I would have to find the right company to do it with. And honestly, you guys would be perfect because you have this eclectic blend of all these different dancers and styles." And he said, "Okay, let's think about that." And I think maybe a year later, Jen texted me and she said, "Hey, that idea, are you still interested? Because there's a grant that came up, and if we get it in the next 48 hours, we might be able to do it." And so we traded information frantically for the next 2 days, and she probably didn't sleep, wrote the grant, we got the grant. And 4 years later, we're actually, it seems surreal. We've been in the works for so long. It seems surreal that we're actually going to be finally doing this.
And we're going to come back to this to talk more about this piece. And Eduardo and Andrea, I really want to get into your contribution. But Ariel, I think I've been talking to you about preludes for 2 years now, possibly longer. How is it to finally get this up on stage? This is also a major project to you, a collaboration with a local composer. What is it like to finally have this on stage?
For sure. I'll just introduce myself and describe myself. My name is Ariel Rose. I'm a young tan-skinned male. I have a painting behind me. I have dark brown hair, and I'm wearing a navy blue collared shirt. Yeah, this ballet, I don't think I've ever had a ballet that's been so long in the process. The ballet was pretty much finished, yeah, in 2019, more or less. I think it was the spring of 2019. It was completely taught and created, and then it was a scheduling thing, and then it was the pandemic. So it's been a very long process. What I'm sort of happy though about is that the piece hasn't really changed. I was happy with the way it came out right in the beginning, and so it's just been about bringing it back and reteaching it, and and just kind of bringing back the musicality and the nuances of the piece, which are based on these small little preludes, which is the name of the album actually that they're from, by Jorge Mejia. And these preludes, they have to do with memoirs of his, and so it was kind of getting back the emotions and the personalities in the choreography of each piece. So that was kind of probably the most important part of the bringing it back process. But yeah, I'm really happy that it's finally coming back together to go on stage, because I was really, looking forward to this back when we first came up with the idea about it.
And Donna Murray, this is the first time I'm meeting you. It's a pleasure. You are a choreographer primarily based in West Palm Beach. Is that correct?
That's right. I moved to South Florida 10 years ago, and I live in Jupiter with my husband and 3 children.
Mm-hmm. And after you've given us your quick visual description,
yes.
Tell us, this is your first project. I think this is your first project for Dimensions. What does it mean to you to have a premiere with this company?
Oh, yes. So my name is Donna Murray, and I have white skin. I have dark brown hair with bangs, and I have a dark piece of furniture behind me with some fall decorations. This is actually my second project with Dimensions. Jen and Carlos invited me to set a pas de deux a couple of years ago, a couple of seasons ago, called Space Between Words. And they've continued to do that pas de deux in their rep. So this is the second project. And this project, I actually received a fellowship from the Palm Beach County Cultural Council in 2020 to work on this piece. And I reached out to Jen and Carlos to see if they would want to collaborate on this project. And they said yes. I was thrilled. And so we made it in the spring of 2021, sort of the first draft. And then I'm back in the studio this fall to work on it.
So you made this during the pandemic?
Yeah. I mean, the spring of 2021. The fellowship had a sort of deadline. We had a date in June to show not to show the work formally, but informally. And so we made that deadline. Yeah.
So I want to talk in more detail about Kevin's piece, because we have two of his collaborators here. And I also want to point out, this is one of the things I love about Dimensions and the way that Jennifer and Carlos work, is they're so embedded in the community. And they have so many connections here from their years at Miami City Ballet. Andrea Spiritinakos, the costume designer for Kevin's piece, was a beautiful dancer with Miami City Ballet. I really enjoyed her so much when I was a critic at the Herald. Ariel is currently a dancer at Miami City Ballet, although he's also a talented choreographer who's really had a stage locally for his work with Dimensions. And I love that you know, Kevin, that Jennifer just texted you, hey, do you want to do this? It's one of the things I really enjoy about this company is that they're so proactive and so human and so connected with people in this city. So Kevin, tell us a little bit more. So your piece is called Deco, which stands for Danzone of Eclectic Cultural Origin. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
So why Deco? And I'm curious to know what you think. You've choreographed for companies all over the country. What strikes you about Miami, about Dimensions, and about Miami, which I understand was really an inspiration for this piece?
Yeah, Deco is sort of a double meaning. It's reference to the deep history of Art Deco here in Miami and how that's sort of a legacy here. And then of course it serves as an acronym, you know, talking about all the cultural entities that exist in this city and really make up the amazing quilt that is Miami. And I think Dimensions in a beautiful way is a small facet of that. You look at the company and it's so diverse, not only in terms of ethnicity, but in terms of dance style, in terms of, you know, dancers that have had long careers, dancers that are just starting their careers. There's so much in Dimensions to play off of as a choreographer that it made this piece such a natural fit. It was a total no-brainer that this was the piece that I was going to do here. And, you know, from that little snippet of a piece of music, we built this idea of, well, okay, what if we're going to do a piece? The music was only 10 minutes. We thought we could do just a 10-minute piece, but we thought, what if we expanded it? And what if we made it really about the city of Miami? And since that was the idea, I've been able to go like a million different directions because Miami is a million different things and Dimensions themselves are a million different things. And so it's such an amazing piece. Looking down the road, it would be so fun to have other companies perform it, but I honestly don't know if they could because no one is Dimensions. This company is so unique that the piece is going to premiere here, and it could not be a better fit to do this homage to Miami with a company that truly represents Miami.
Kevin, what are some of the things you're paying homage to? What are some of the things about Miami that struck you, that captured you? We've all, well, I have lived in Miami for a very long time. A number of us have been here for a very long time. It's natural to us. What's different about it to you? And how do you try to show, how do you show that?
Well, first of all, it was completely overwhelming. How do you represent a city in a ballet and do it justice? And so there's so many homages. I think just because the ballet is called Deco, the first and probably strongest homage is to just the shape of Deco. Like you look at Art Deco and it has certain scrolls and it has certain lines and it has a very strong function as visually stunning art. And so that's the first thing I felt. The ballet had to be visually stunning and it had to have these shapes. And so you see that a lot in the opening. But then it immediately goes into this section that is like very strong, like hip hop music. Cause I felt like there had to be pop music. You know what I mean? You can't go down the street in Miami without hearing like music blaring and people dancing. And so there's this homage to like the Latin culture where with Cubans and like their salsa dancing, and there's like references to tango. And there's a section that we choreographed that's just super peaceful. And it's just what I imagined, just like sitting on the beach at sunrise would be like. There's a section that pays homage to the Native Americans that settled this land, before anyone else showed up, and sort of what happened to them as they were driven into the Everglades and had to take refuge. There's a whole pas de deux that happens, and there's the rest of the company is just standing on stage and they're sort of running through them, and that was I think it's just so. I think it's important to remember all parts of history, not the good ones, not all the bad ones too. And there's a whole section that's a reference to the number of people that try to escape to Miami, that this is their one hope for a new future. And some of them make it and some of them don't, and how heartbreaking that is. There's an entire section that is my imagination of what a night out on the town would be like, just getting absolutely like crazy and just, exploring everything. So I hope the ballet works because it is so many different things. I've never choreographed a piece that was this all over the map, but I feel like that's what Miami is. So I felt like I had to go that crazy in that many different directions.
Eduardo, so I want to say a little bit about Eduardo De Val Carrier because he won't say it about himself. He's a magnificent Haitian American painter and artist who's really, I think, pivotal to Miami's artistic identity. He not only is his work beautifully and radically representative of a contemporary Caribbean, but he does wonderful work at the Little Haiti Cultural Center and with other artists to promote Caribbean art and Caribbean artists. And I'm also proud to say he's been a friend for many, many years. Eduardo, I think this is the first time you've collaborated on a major dance project. Is that right? Eduardo, we can't hear you. You're muted. I saw that. I can't unmute you.
Okay, there I am. Sorry about that. Yes, it's been a long time since we've known each other. I have to describe myself a bit. I'm like getting older. I mean, I have gray hair, gray beard, big glasses. I have some paintings. I'm an artist in my background. I guess that's it for the moment. No, I've worked with the theater there in Homestead, and I've also, basically, I've done about 3 of these projects, and they've always been very different and very interesting to me. In this one, I had a visit of Carlos and Jennifer. Carlos immediately started dancing in my studio, so I was very happy to see that. What was mentioned, the idea of the Deco, you and I lived in Miami Beach. So, I'm impregnated with that part of the city. It's not all about, but it is very I mean, very idiosyncratic of Miami, that skyline. I love it, and I've used it so many times as a, like, I mean, as the modern Caribbean could be, because me, I mean, to the great distress of everybody else, I called Miami not south of the United States, but north of the Caribbean. I mean, so because it's so much that, like we have all of these populations in town, and has created, like quite a scene for Miami to have this template, like this. It has a history all of its own, and that I've been always trying to capture. And I'm very fond of this city, and anything I can do to make sure that it's always present, either in my work or in the spirit of my work. That I created this particular backdrop, because it's a backdrop because I mean, I'm not very familiar with all of these theatrical constructions and organization of space, but I told myself, these are dancers, and the last thing they need is to be like bumping into anything while they're like flying around. So I mean, we've made it very spare, so it's just a backdrop. And at one point, the backdrop represents, like the skyline, I mean, an imagined skyline of Miami Beach or Miami, because the city is growing and growing, and we don't know when it's going to stop. And at one point, just to counterbalance, are the spirits, like that come, like that have invaded the cities very surreptitiously, that just comes down from the ceiling to make sure that people realize that we are in a Caribbean space. I've tried to create a magical kind of way of representing. I mean, it's very dark, but at the same time has like spots of very shiny silver and stuff like that. And since I was the first one, I don't know, everybody was doing things, and I said, maybe I'm supposed to be the one giving this whole thing some sort of, like, okay, this is what's going to happen. The dancing is one thing. I never saw the dancers apart from Carlos doing his like his twirling around the studio. I mean, like taken aback by that, and it was breathtaking. And I know Angela, like, I mean, I know her work, and I've seen her, and we've talked, like apart from the group. But I mean, I hope. I mean, what do you think, you guys? Now that the 40-foot, like a 50-foot long backdrop that's like 20 feet tall. I mean, that was quite a feat to do that, and I thought they expected me to do it all by myself, because, but they did manage to get, like this major company that is from Florida as well. I mean, that's another thing that's great about this particular project. It's like really a Florida-based kind of production, and everybody seemed to know each other, have collaborated, like prior to that. So it was lovely to, I mean, to drive off to a solo company. I mean, and they do backdrop. It's like, it's like everybody should go there to check it out. It's like, I've never seen studios like that. I thought my studio was big. It's minute compared to theirs. And
Called Eduardo, this company, do you remember?
A solo, it's called a solo. It's theater. I mean,
Well, so like a solo rep in Sarasota?
it's Sarasota. Yes, a solo. Yes, you know that. I mean, I may be pronouncing it wrong, but I went twice to check out how they produce this, because I made I mean, first of all, some designs, and I brought it to some sort of a scale, and then they turned it into this gigantic backdrop. I would like to know what Kevin and Carlos, have you seen it? I mean, do you like it? I mean, nobody has told me anything.
Kevin, Carlos, Jen,
It's incredible. We had the pleasure of getting to see it hanging at the theater because we did a short film version of Deco funded by the Knight Foundation. And so we got to see it all hanging. And I'll tell you, when we walked into the house and saw it there, it was kind of like a smack in the face, like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden this ballet is coming to life. It was so exciting.
Also,
exciting.
The other incredible touch that it brings, also something very important and particular on stage with the backdrop, is the proscenium of the theater, which you built that too, you designed that too. So it's going to be showing there. So it is wonderful. It looks really great.
in a prior, I forget all of these things. Terribly sorry. I should have prepared myself to show pictures and stuff. Anyways, I have done the proscenium of that, and they uncovered it because it was covered. And I said, please leave it there because you never know. It's really nice. Don't destroy my work. But they were nice enough to cover it. But they undid it, and I tried to match the whole thing to the backdrop. So it should be quite. I mean, I hope quite telling of my love for like all of you guys, like what we're trying to do here in Miami, because it's like a really a homegrown kind of project, and I respect that, and I will do anything to make sure that it's like like the best of like what we can do here. And apparently they are going on the road with this project as well, which is like they are going on the road, and it was a demand that everything should be packed up like in the most conscientious way so that it could travel. And is that still going on? I mean, I still have so many questions.
That's the plan.
That's the plan. We hope to take it on the road and tour with it. We received place in a fellowship really with South Arts with their new Momentum program that really helps Southern companies build their touring capacity. And so the timing coincided with Deco, and we thought that this would be the perfect piece, almost like a signature piece for the company to take on the road. And so in building it, it was really, really important to us that all of the elements should be tourable, that they should be mobile and be able to be packed and be able to be taken on the road safely, efficiently, cost effectively, all of that.
And also if there is a small theater, we can have to adapt that too.
Right, it's totally transformable. I mean compact and ready to get on the road. And I feel so proud of that particular aspect, that at least the elders, the funders of this particular project had that in mind, because we always, I think, in Miami, a bit shy, like as to promote and produce. I mean, we are as good as anybody. So, like if this road, even if it's by road, get to New York and present it properly, we will do that. Right?
Yes. Andrea, you were a dancer with Miami City Ballet for many years. I think it's wonderful that you've transitioned to being an entirely different kind of artist, a fabric and one-of-a-kind fashion artist and costume designer. Tell us about the work, what you've created for this piece, and how you envision the theme. And does your history as a dancer, how does that help you in designing costumes? How does that affect your process?
Thanks, Jordan. First of all, it's so great to see you in a different avenue now, both of us on other sides. I love it. To describe myself briefly, I've got pale skin and very long, very dark black hair. I'm wearing red lipstick and mesh and gray shirt, and behind me are racks of clothing. So first of all, the original talks that we had with Kevin and Jen and Carlos and Eduard, I really wanted everything to be symbiotic, and I didn't want it to look like, oh, the costumes don't match the sets, but then I didn't want it too matchy. So I wanted to see Eduard's designs, and one of the prompts that was given was Rococo Deco, which is totally, they're the opposite. They don't really work together. But in looking at Miami Deco that we have, I live on the beach, I've lived here for a long time. We have a really interesting decorative patterns for Art Deco, which are not the same as in New York or other places. And so I think it's called Tropical Deco or Deco Tropical. And you see it in a lot of the places on Ocean Drive, really beautiful scroll work and, obviously the curves and stuff like that. So my original designs had a great deal of detail that were scrolling and round shapes. But when I first put those pieces on some of the dancers, I realized it doesn't work as much. Yeah, it works on a flat piece of architecture, but not on a curvy, a curved human body. So some of those things were streamlined down. It was interesting for me to look at that. And I hope that my dance background has given me a little bit of an eye to what works on a dancer as well, because sometimes you get costume designers that maybe they've danced, or some of them haven't danced at all, and they're just designers by trade. And I think that the lines and the look that we look for as a dancer, I mean, we're so neurotic in little detailed things, which is a beautiful thing. So I hope I added that to help the girls. So the pieces are they're detailed. I mean, it's just a leotard, and some of them are like 29 pieces. So they're all pieced together, and they've created these designs. And I hope that they're very flattering on the girls.
When you say dancers are so neurotic about how they look, or like, what are some of the things that you need in a dance costume?
That's interesting. Yeah, so I think it's where the line is broken up. So either, if we had an all one color costume, that looks good too. But then of course people would be like, oh, my body, this color, and I could see my shape, which is not bad. But then sometimes when it is broken up with to try to give dimension to the piece that you're wearing, sometimes it's not broken up in a good spot on your body. So it could be ways that either would make your legs look shorter, or would like how can I say, that would give an optical illusion to make you look top heavy or out of your natural proportions. So I tried to steer away from that and do things that had Deco designs, but still like worked with the female body.
Okay. Ariel, your piece, Preludes, really has a musical inspiration. Is that right? Jorge Mejia's compositions. And I have to tell this story. Jennifer's sick of it, but I have to tell this story. So Jorge Mejia is another Miami City Ballet connection. He dated a Miami City ballet dancer back in the 90s and got to be friends with all these people at the company. And so the relationship ended, but he still loves ballet, and he stayed connected to Jennifer and Carlos and other people from Miami City Ballet. And so Jennifer saw that Jorge was premiering this album of piano preludes, and she saw it on his Facebook and reached out to him, and he said, hey, are you interested in having this be the basis for the ballet? And then Ariel, what I understand is she sent the music to you and said, could you work with this? So what happened then? Tell us about that, and tell us about what the music has inspired.
Sure, absolutely. So I remember this was probably in the winter, I want to say, of 2018, maybe like super early January 2019. I don't remember exactly. And, as a choreographer, I usually choose my own music. I usually don't have people give me music and say, hey, can you make something to this? Because it's just, for me, I like to sit on music for a long time. Not some music I have been sitting on for years, some it's a year, a few months, but I like to sit on it, digest it, sort of listen to it every now and then. And I sort of mentally will start building something, over weeks and months, again, sometimes years. But yes, Jen sent me the album and she said, everything that you just mentioned. And she said, take a listen. So I was super sore that day. I sat in my bathtub for probably about an hour and a half, and I listened to it. And I listened to it twice, and I kid you not. And I Jen, you probably remember this. I texted you after I got out of the bath, and I said, I have a ballet finished. And I think she was like, I don't even think she believed me. But Jen, you remember that text, right? I had put together something in that hour and a half. And I don't mean the steps. I don't mean, but duet, quartet, potted, like I had it all planned out, and it was just there. And I think what really struck me with the music, with this music, is that because they are inspired by memoirs of him, there is an emotional charge or element to every single piece of music in that album. And what really kind of blew me away and made me sort of happy, it was, so later on, after I kind of mentally put the piece together, I don't really remember if I had probably already started choreographing it in my mind. I don't know if I had gone to the dancers yet, but then Jorge had his performance of this album, his kind of actually multi-interactive performance of it at the Night Center, which I attended with Jen and Carlos. And it kind of struck me as to, I actually sort of got it right, the emotional context to most, because part of it was he would actually describe the memoir or the memory and then play. So it was actually kind of a story. He would speak about a part of his life and then play the music, and then speak about another part of his life and then play the music. And I would say, like, out of 12 pieces, I got like 10 kind of like nail on the head, not in terms of my choreography is telling a story, but the emotional context of that memory, I sort of did have right. And so that just made me really happy. And then later, when I got to know Jorge and talk to him, and we got to talk just a lot, not just about the piece, but about life and art and everything, I realized that him and I are very similar artists, that in that we both wear our hearts on our sleeve. You know, there are many artists that don't like to talk about the emotional context of their work. And I was so blown away by this show that he put together. Was literally just this, like, telling everyone literally the love story of how he ended up meeting his wife. And I think that is just such an open, raw thing that many artists don't do, because many artists deal in subtleties, you know, including George Valentine and many others in their work. Even though it's beautiful and there's romance, it's not so explicit. And the way that he did that, I thought was just so admirable, because, like, I always try to find that balance, right, of expressing oneself or expressing what music makes you feel without just being blunt about it. And especially with this piece, because they are his memories, I tried to find a balance in that. But I realized that him and I are very similar artists in that way, at least as people. And so we really connected, I think, on an artistic level in terms of people, not just in terms of our work. So that just made me even more happy to then be on this project. And I'm so excited for him to see the piece. I've sent him little clips and stuff over the past 2 years or so, but I'm really excited to kind of see it all come together. And yeah.
There's going to be a lot of anticipation in the audience that night. Donna, you've been waiting so patiently. I was just struck by Ariel talking about how intensely he was inspired by the music. And I believe your piece, Landscapes, is inspired by a poet. Is that right?
Exactly.
And you mentioned a previous piece that you did for Dimensions called Space Between Words. So I don't know if that was also inspired by poetry, but I would like to hear about the poet and the inspiration for this piece, for Landscapes.
Sure. Space Between Words was not. Space Between Words was purely a movement study. In fact, the movement came even before the music. This new piece actually dates back, the beginnings of it dates back to 2017. So this too has been many years sort of in the making. A friend of mine passed me her poetry that she had written, and she had titled it Landscapes. And she described a love affair that took place on a cross-country road trip. And so with each location, she kind of described this love within the context of a particular landscape. And I just found the whole series beautiful, this whole collection of poems. And I asked her if I could sort of use it as inspiration for a work. And so back in 2017, I actually made the first duet. And the first duet is a sort of love duet. It's two females, because when I got to the end of this collection of poems, it had turned out this love was between two women. And so I felt like I wanted to use that image in the first duet. And so I made the first duet, and as soon as I finished it, I knew it wasn't the whole piece. I knew I wanted to make a male duet and a male-female duet. So I really...
Why is that?
It was just this feeling I had. I was really, there was something about making this duet for the two women. They're actually two Miami contemporary dancers that I made the duet on first. We were invited to an international dance festival. And I was very satisfied at the end of it, but I guess I wanted more. I felt it was the first time I ever made a piece like that with two women. I didn't want to use anything that was cliche or sort of, shocking or anything like that. I wanted to just make it beautiful. And for me, make it about love. And, you can't control what people come into the theater with or what their perceptions are going to be. But it turns out, I think that's what, I think in the end, the audience saw love. And so I wanted to do the same for two men and then a man and a woman. And of course I had made pottages before, but I think because I made the male female one last, it was sort of more informed this time, than how I usually approach it. So I don't know. So I sort of borrowed her title. And her name is Lonnie Scazzari. She's a good friend. She's a South Florida poet, beautiful writer, and she'll be in the audience as well. And so, yeah, we look forward to it.
What was it like for the dancers, for the male couple and the female couple? What was it like for them to work on that? We're still working it a bit. They were so open. I think we were all completely on board and willing. And partnering is fun, right? Like partnering, I think, especially with Dimensions dancers, I love that. And I think with the two men, these particular dancers, first of all, they're so much fun. But one is very tall and one is not. And it just opened up so many partnering possibilities. It was challenging, but at the same time, just really wonderful. And they're still digging into it. I think there was sort of no hesitation on their part. I think the girls, we sometimes had to work. I found myself saying, sort of, not to make it so pretty, because for me in my choreography, it's not really about these ta-da moments. It's more the in-between moments that I think give it a more sort of human, quality or texture. I want to see realness. And so for the girls, I think we had to work that a little bit more than maybe what they're used to. But in terms of connection and willingness, they're wonderful. I love working with them. It's interesting. I think there's a lot more interest in the dance world to explore LGBTQ relationships and identities, and ballet has been really late to this. It's kind of just starting to get there, I think. And I'm going to mention Chris Rudd, who is a choreographer from Miami, now based in New York, who has a male duet that's being performed by American Ballet Theater right now, and to which they've really promoted and put it out there. But ballet has been much later to this kind of expression and exploration than contemporary dance has. So it's wonderful that you're doing this.
Thanks.
I don't see any questions, so we will continue to speak amongst ourselves. Kevin and Ariel, can you talk a little bit about what it was like to work with these dancers? And what was great about it, what was challenging, and what were you trying to do movement-wise? Ariel, go.
Sure. I think for this piece, I definitely would say it's the most balletic piece that I've done for Dimensions. It's not contemporary like Esferas was. It's not modern, on the more modern side, like Equus was. I really do sort of think that this is a neoclassical work in a sense, but I told the dancer sort of on day one, I want you to be humans first, and dancer second. So even though we were doing, it's a lot of class, like what you would consider more balletic partnering and balletic movement, but you know, when they're standing on the sides or when they're kind of going through the portobello, I didn't want them to kind of go through what you learn in school, you know, going through first position all the time. Like I said, let your elbows drop, especially for the men, because sometimes men were trained to like look strong and structured, you know, when especially when we're partnering the ladies. And I said, you know, just you can use your elbows and wrists and hands the same way that the ladies are doing it, right? Like try to match your partner as opposed to sort of trying to be the contrast there. But I really tried to just kind of bring home that like in this piece that you are people first and dancers second, and that the way that, because it's a bunch of parados and quartets for the most part, and that how you relate to one another can really bring out that emotional element of the music, which I was talking about before, of each piece. And I think if each parado or quartet, if the dancers do that successfully, then the duet or parado is successful, if that makes sense. If it's done well, but without that connection of being real people and feeling real things, then it just doesn't, I feel like it just doesn't read as well, because the music is just that emotionally charged. And by that, I don't mean dramatic. I don't mean that I mean, there might be one or two pieces that are very, you know, emotionally dramatic, but for the most part, they're just nuances. You know, one is a little bit more on the frivolous side. There's one or two that are very playful, like children playing. So I would talk to them not just about, you know, who they're being, but sort of the just the emotional nuance they're trying to bring out of the music. You know, like your children playing here, or here you're shy. You know, so kind of there's some personality elements in it as well. So I think bringing that out of them kind of right from the beginning, like I know there's many choreographers who kind of don't give that information when they start. They sort of let the dancers explore, and then later on, they'll kind of try to pull that out. There's some choreographers who never say anything. You know, they're very hush-hush about it and kind of let the dancers figure it out. I kind of did the reverse approach. I kind of from day one told them not what they have to do, but what my idea for this parade or this quartet was, or what this little formation or this little moment, what I'm feeling here personally, or what I think the music is feeling personally. And I tried to kind of start with them knowing that from the beginning, so that they would have more time knowing what sort of my vision was for it. And I think that's definitely helped the dancers sort of find their own personalities in this piece. So I wouldn't say that was so much of a challenge, but it was just a different approach that I was taking to this piece that I've kind of been doing more so in my more recent years choreographing that I didn't used to do beforehand.
Thank you. Kevin, can you talk about your process with the company on this in particular?
Yeah, my process with this has been really fascinating because we started actually choreographing back in 2020, in the beginning of the year. And, you know, we got 20 minutes done, and then we stopped midweek to start the pandemic, you know, and so we lost the last 3 days of rehearsal. And in that time, you know, I really focused more on the Art Deco side of things. It was very shape oriented. It was very contemporary ballet, almost neoclassical. And it was such a great cast. And then coming back, you know, now a year and a half later, I have 2 dancers from the original cast of 8. So, 75% of the cast is brand new. And I've used that as a chance to just be like, you know what, like, I think COVID taught me that like all bets are off. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know if we ever are going to get the chance to be in the theater again. You know, I face the fact I might never choreograph again. So I have gone completely like, just like, let's try new things with this new cast. You know, they've done a great job of learning the old rep, but the new stuff I'm creating is very much based on them as dancers, because they're not the same dancers, you know, in terms of height, in terms of ability, in terms of style. And so I think I've enjoyed this set of rehearsal weeks more because I think it's exciting to be back in the studio, but also I think I'm more, I don't know, that thing that artists have to do, we have to learn to let go. And I think I've tapped into that with this group of dancers, and they've bought in hardcore. They've been so great. And it's helped me see them as individual dancers and see the way that they could tell this story, rather than me coming in with the vision and being like, this is my story. It's like, okay, what can Sayla bring to the story? What can Kevin bring to the story? What can like Myrelle? I think I see them as stronger voices.
Eduardo, does any of this make you want to watch a rehearsal someday and just see? Eduardo, you're muted again.
We've been all so isolated. So I'm waiting for an invite and I'll rush down to check them out. And I want to see them evolving within that's proscenium and backdrop and thing coming down. And I want to see the costumes done by Andrea. I mean, and I want to see what it's all about, really, because I never had a chance to really, like contemplate that all of those aspects of this production,
You don't need an invitation. You're family now. You come whenever you want.
Doors are open for you,
all right,
for everybody.
I will come. I have to travel right now, but I will come as soon as I get back to see before the major opening. Just to not to be like dropping, like fainting out of joy when I see it that first day. I'll keep my composure, Anyways, I'm really looking forward, and I'm so happy that this is finally, like moving along. I mean, it was very daunting this year for all of us, I'm sure.
Jennifer and Carlos, you have such a group here that you've brought together. So you've told the story about Kevin working with you a few years ago and hearing the music and inviting Ariel, but can you talk a little bit about how you go about choosing people? And in this case, I'm curious, like you showed up at Eduardo's studio. What made you reach out to Eduardo and Andrea? But for these three choreographers, can you talk about your process in choosing people to work with?
Well, we always try to choose or use we have great artists here in our community, right? So why not to always use them, do collaborations with them. We are open to do collaborations, especially with great artists that we have here, and not always bring from outside, right? And it was very special with Andrea. We always have we dance together, Miami City Ballet. So this was kind of like yes, she will have to do the costume for that. And Edward, I mean, we've been trying to do something with the painting or, some kind of artwork. We've been trying to do that. So we thought that he was the perfect person to use. And well, with Ariel, we have a great connection also, since we were dancing in Miami City Ballet and as well as Donna. Mm-hmm. So,
for us, it's really interesting what Ariel said about what he told the dancers, that for preludes, he wants them to be humans first and dancers second, because that really echoes what our approach to building this company has been. And that really plays a big role in who we choose and what we choose and why we choose those things. Really, when we look for choreographers to bring in, or we look for new dancers to bring in, or we look for collaborators, we look at the human and, what we feel with them. And we're really careful about bringing people that we know will take care of our dancers, because we love them, like we care about them. And that experience that they have with those people that we bring in is something that is going to stay with them forever. Even more so than the performance, because the performance is the icing on the cake and it's this fleeting moment that comes and it goes, but the process stays with you always. Mm-hmm. And so those human connections that you make in the studio are really, really important in shaping who you become and continue to become as an artist, and what they will continue to contribute to the company, really, and to our community. So if we can keep pulling from our own community and finding these incredible human beings that also happen to be incredible artists, and just keep working off of each other, I think the possibilities are endless, really. For the city, right? Sure. Not just the company.
That's really wonderful thing to say. And again, it's one of the reasons that I really admire what you've done and what you are doing with this company is the way you're building it, and you're putting such deep roots into the community. It also reminds me of Edward Villela, the founding artistic director of Miami City Ballet, used to say, is that he looked for good people, that he looked for people because he had to work with them intimately every day, all the time, and you have to get along. So I think we have just a few minutes to go. I'm going to thank you all for a really wonderful conversation. I'm really excited about this evening now. I think there's going to be so much energy in the theater that night, the anticipation for these pieces, the anticipation that all of you are going to bring at finally seeing your work come to life, the anticipation we're all going to bring about having this incredible night in the theater, inside the theater, together. I know you're all so excited about it. I'm so excited. I think audiences are going to be so excited to be a part of that. So on that note, I'm going to close this out. Thank you, everybody, for opening yourselves up and so much and sharing your work and your thoughts. And I'll see you in the theater.
Thank you so much to our moderator, Jordan Levin, and to our panelists. So much. Thank you to our panelists for participating in this incredible dance talk. And thank you to all of you for joining us. Tickets for the in-person show at the South Miami-Dade Cultural Arts Center on Saturday, November 13th at 8 p.m. are available now. So please visit smdcac.org to get your tickets. We look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much and have a good night.